Okay, so let's get into it. Last time we talked about scales, which are sort of like the DNA, the basic blueprint for music.
Exactly. And if scales are the DNA, then our mission for this deep dive is to look at the first things built from that DNA.
The first load-bearing structures.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. We're talking about intervals and basic triads, straight from the level 3 theory material. This is where music really starts to have an emotional impact.
So let's start with the absolute basic unit here, the interval. It's really just the distance between any two notes, right?
That's all it is. And we name it by just counting. A C to a D is a second, a C to an E is a third, all the way up. Simple.
But the number isn't the whole story. There's this other layer, this quality.
Right. And this is the crucial part. The distance is one thing, but the quality tells you what it feels like.
Yeah.
And right away, intervals get split into two main families, major and perfect.
Okay, hold on. Why the split? Why aren't they all just, major or something else? Why do some get to be perfect?
That's a fantastic question. The ones we call perfect, the fourths, the fifths, and the octave, they sound incredibly stable. They're physically pure in a way that relates to the natural harmonic series. They don't feel like they need to go anywhere.
They sound at rest, complete.
Exactly. They sound complete. So that leaves the others, the second, third, sixth, and sevenths, to be the major intervals.
And those sound brighter, a little more active.
Yeah, active is the perfect word. They have a kind of brightness and a little bit of tension that implies movement. That distinction is everything. Stability versus movement.
And that movement part is what allows for the next step, for the minor quality.
Precisely. You can only make a minor interval from a major one. You take a major, second, third, sixth, or seventh, and you just lower the top note by a single half step.
So the letter name stays the same, which is key. You're just pulling the destination a tiny bit closer, and it totally changes the feeling of the journey.
It does. And that tiny shift, that half step change in an interval, is basically the engine that lets us build chords.
Which brings us to the triad. 3 notes.
A 3-note chord. And the most fundamental one is built by stacking thirds.
To get the major triad, we go right back to that major scale we already know. You just take the first, third, and fifth notes.
That's it. 1, 3, 5. And we call the bottom note the root because it's the foundation that gives the chord its name. C major triad comes from the C major scale.
If you look inside it, though, it's actually 2 different types of thirds stacked on top of each other, isn't it?
The bottom interval is a major third and the top interval is a minor third. That specific combination, major then minor, is what gives you that bright, open, confident sound of a major chord.
Okay, so now for the emotional gut punch, the minor triad. This is where you get the melancholy, the introspection.
All that depth. And what's amazing is how simple the change is. To get from that bright major sound to the more complex minor sound, what do?
You just take the middle note, the third,
Yeah.
and you lower it by a half step. That's it.
That is it. That one little tweak flips the whole structure.
So instead of major on bottom, minor on top.
It becomes a minor third on the bottom with a major third stacked on top. And that tiny change is the difference between a happy song and a sad one, fundamentally.
So when you really think about it, what this means for you, the listener, is that these two sounds, major and minor triads, are the absolute bedrock of Western harmony.
They really are. They define the mood of almost every piece of music you've ever heard. You now have the tools to build the vast majority of chords you'll ever see.
But composers don't just, line them up like toy soldiers. There's more to it. How do they use these simple 3-note blocks to create flow and interest?
Well, that's the perfect question to lead us forward, because the next critical step is understanding inversions. What happens when you have those same 3 notes, but the root isn't on the bottom anymore?
You rearrange the stacking order.
You flip them around, and that is how you start to create really compelling bass lines and unlock the true harmonic potential of these simple little triads.